Get in there, you little shit.
Alright. Rude. You don't have to push. Jerk. Oh. This is awesome. Oh. What up, fam? Welcome to Skill Tree, where we learn how to do just about everything. So, like hundreds of people every year, I seem to have found myself abducted. No worries, though. Due to talents of a misspent youth and a penchant for spy movies and late 80s television, I'm pretty sure I can get out of this one. So since I have a little bit of time to kill while I formulate an escape plan, I guess I'll take some time and show you how to escape the more common ways somebody may detain you in case you end up in a similar situation. Those being duct tape, zip ties, and handcuffs. Oh, and I know, time and place, right? But if you like what you see, why don't you hit that thumbs up button and subscribe to my channel? Really helps. Finally, all these methods will be timestamped in the description in case you're in kind of a rush to get out of whatever binding you're in. Alright, with all that out of the way, let's level up this skill. Method 1. Duct tape. A favored method for the assailant on the go, duct tape is the ultimate lazy man's handcuff. It's a staple in any hardware store you go to, and it's way less suspicious than, like, rope, a shovel, and a bag of lime. Unfortunately for our wayward kidnappers, the only thing in the world that duct tape isn't good at is containing your awesomeness. Here's how to escape. Start by raising your arms over your head. Then, with as much force as possible, slam your elbows past your ribcage. This is effective because your body forms a wedge that forces your arms apart. All of that force is concentrated directly on the duct tape, causing it to tear. Pretty simple, right? If I'm being honest, this is the worst part. I'll never forgive them. Never. This ends up being far more an exercise in momentum than in strength. But if you find yourself having trouble doing it, try to find like a rough or sharp edge to weaken the tape first. Method 2. Zip ties. Kidnapping stuff. I'm clearly dealing with professionals here. Another commonly available item turned to nefarious purposes are zip ties. Both cheap and portable, zip ties have become a really common restraint used from the military and police to terrorists and kidnappers. Ooh, quick note, all of these methods are only to be used when you're detained unlawfully. Don't try to escape from police officers. That's a bad idea. Zip ties consist of a stem, a head, and a shank. The stem has a smooth side and a side with little teeth running along its entire length. When you pass the stem through the head, the shank catches on those little teeth, locking it in place. So that shank in there is just a tiny little piece of plastic, clearly no match for your awesome strength. The basic escape here is mostly the same as the duct tape. First, counterintuitively, you want to start by making sure the zip ties are as tight as possible. Simply grab it with your teeth and make it as tight as you can. Also, make sure the head of the zip tie rests in the space between your wrists. Now, just like with the duct tape, bring your arms up and slam them back down past your ribcage. Performing that wedge maneuver puts all of the force in that one little piece of plastic, causing it to fail. Now, the zip ties can be a little bit more tough on the wrists and require a little bit more strength. There is another method, though, that's a bit easier. Assuming your abductors have left you with your shoes, you can use those laces to melt straight through your restraints. Start by untying your shoes. Now pass a lace through your restraint and tie that lace to a lace on the other shoe. Here's a better view with how you put the laces. Now, keeping tension on the laces, move your legs as though you're riding a bicycle. The heat generated from the friction should be enough to melt right through those zip ties, setting you free. Fantastic, you now know how to break out of duct tape and zip ties, much to the chagrin of drug lords and kidnappers everywhere. But what do you do if your kidnappers decide they want to go a little more professional and put in the extra expense? Who knows, you might just be important enough to merit. Method 3. Handcuffs. Handcuffs. For quite some time, handcuffs have been the gold standard for restraining people. And with good reason too, requiring a lot more than strength or a sharp object to get out of it, you really need to have some skill to know what you're doing. Luckily, we are skill monkeys, and skills are kind of what we do. So because your situations may vary, I'm actually going to show you 3 ways to break out of these suckers. And no, the key doesn't count as one of the ways to break out of it, it's just letting yourself out of it. Not only that, but how often do you really travel with a handcuff key on your person. That being said, every one of us travels with a paperclip. Alright, so maybe you don't generally travel with a paperclip everywhere you go, but the odds are you're going to be able to find some kind of flexible piece of metal out there in the world. Anyways, they're handcuffs. It's what they're for. If it was easy to do, they'd stop making the things. So before we get into picking these bad boys, why don't we take a step back and look into how they actually work. A basic handcuff is comprised of a stationary double bar, a swiveling single bar, the locking mechanism, and a chain and swivel that connect both handcuffs together. The single bar has little teeth along the edge of it that catch on the locking mechanism, locking it in place. Now that actual locking mechanism in there is very simple, and it's the weak point we want to exploit. All it is a spring-loaded bar with teeth on it. When you use the key, it pushes that bar away and allows the single bar to swing open. To do this with a paperclip, you want to start by unbending one of the legs and inserting it into the lock. Now, using the lock, bend the paperclip to form a small kink. Now simply insert the paperclip and turn it into the direction of the double bar to release the lock and taste sweet, sweet freedom. And this is what's happening inside when you use the paperclip. Now in some cases, the handcuff might actually be double locked. This is usually just a simple little pin that once engaged stops the single bar from being able to move either tighter or looser. To get rid of this inconvenience, just turn your pick in the other direction first to disengage the double lock, then pick as normal. As you can see here, the paperclip clears the double lock, then moves on to the regular lock. Not too bad, right? Considering what they are, I kind of thought they'd be a little bit more difficult to get out of, but... And if you believe it, there's actually an even easier way. It's called shimming, and all it really requires is a small, thin piece of metal. In our case, I'm using one of these springy hair clips. Just snap one end off, and then bend over or snap off one of the legs. Simply insert it where the single bar enters the lock housing. While pushing your shim, close the handcuff a few clicks tighter. This causes the shim to get between the teeth of the single bar and the teeth of the locking mechanism, allowing the cuffs to swing open. The only caveat here being that this will only work if the double lock isn't engaged, because you need to be able to close it a couple of clicks, and the double lock stops that from happening. So congrats, you're now able to pick and shim your way to freedom. But clever, I hear you say. What if there are no little slivers of metal around for me to do that with? To which I say, valid point. In the event that your captors are way more competent than mine appear to be, here's one more technique I can show you that require absolutely no tools. I like to call it the Hulk Mad method, because you're actually going to break out of the handcuffs. As you can imagine, this requires a bit more strength, but honestly not as much as you'd think. A lot of physics involved here. Start by rotating one of the swivels that connect the chains to the cuffs around the one on the opposite cuff. What you're trying to do here is to get the chains to bind up, like so. You may want to rough up the chain a little bit or get it dirty, because if it's brand new, it might be oiled. Once you've achieved the bind, find the direction that offers the most resistance and pry hard in that direction. This will cause the cuff to snap at either the chain or the swivel, giving you the use of your hands back and the title of absolute badass. So I accomplished this, but it did take me roughly an hour. Although possible, it's not exactly easy. And as you can see, it wasn't exactly without its consequences. I was pretty sore when I was done. That being said, an hour and some discomfort is a small price to pay for freedom. The moral of the story is don't give up. Your mind is the most powerful weapon you have, and with just a little bit of creativity and some patience, you really can do anything. That'll do. Again, if you like what you saw here today, why don't you unbind your hands and hit that thumbs up and subscribe so you know when I release new content. Also, leave any requests for skills in the comments that you want me to cover, and I will add it to the list. Oh, I think I hear somebody coming. Now's my chance. In the meantime, keep leveling up, you.
Hey, what are you doing? Oh, he shot the light!
Method 1. Duct tape. Oh, it hurts so bad. There's just so much hair.